And in the same projection, like Atlantic Africa,
movements around the world, which we're hoping to bring to the table as partners. And so we begin this symposium, we ask you not to just engage, but also envision.
Okay, Peter, first of all, before the first question, can you please present yourself? Who is Dr. Peter Harper?
Thank you. I'm Dr. Peter Harper. I'm a consultant medical oncologist, and I also have a role in harm reduction working with Philip Morris International. Now, how I came to this was because I have made my career in lung cancer and a lot of cancers that have been caused and where smokers are the predominant population. And I started to see the blame and the stigma that applies to those patients who have been smokers. And I felt that we should move on from that and help those patients independently of whether they're smokers or not smokers. So as we've grown up together, there's a lot of blame on the tobacco industry, that they've promoted smoking and that smoking is related to cancers, and not only, of course, cancer of the lung, cancer of the bladder, cancer of the esophagus, and many cancers. However, what's clear is that the reason that the population smokes is, of course, because of nicotine, an addiction to nicotine. And that actually, if you can supply nicotine without smoke, the risks are very much reduced. So learning about smoke, which I've done in the smoke laboratories, has been very important indeed. So I've spent my last few years really trying to unravel the concept of stigma, where that takes the patient, how late they present, what the issues are with smoking, and move it onto a different level where we can work with the industry and separate the two. So a lifelong career spent in cancer, been on the main board of many of the lung cancer programs, and really come to the conclusion that we have to work across the board with harm reduction, not only in cancer, but in all non-communicable diseases.
Good.
And that the NCDs, these non-communicable diseases, are really having a very high burden in the low and middle income countries. So it's taken me on a long journey, but I think we're making an awful lot of progress in unraveling what is the risks and how we can ameliorate those risks for the population.
In that purpose, what are the key benefits of adopting a harm reduction approach in national health strategy?
So harm reduction says that all of us have some bad behavior, whether we cross the road without looking, whether we eat a little bit too much, whether we have any of the other bad habits, lack of exercise, or any of those things. So we all adapt and adopt a process of living to the best that we can, but it has adverse strategies in it. So what you find in harm reduction is that you actually move away from blame, from stigma, and you say, let's adapt and adopt and see whether we can have people who aren't perfect, but who can have less risk and run less risk to their health. So be that cardiovascular disease, be that obesity, be that alcohol, or be that smoking. And what you find is that there is every hope now that different methods of looking at nicotine will be very much less harmful than smoking and combustion.
Yeah, and this is the example. I would like to ask you, can you share with us an example where harm reduction has significantly improved health outcomes?
Yes, you can, and of course the easiest and quickest result is you see with cholesterol lowering drugs, the ability of reducing cholesterol and having less coronary events, less cardiovascular events. That's sort of an easy one because it happens quite quickly. And what you understand with harm reduction is that it's not quit or die. Reducing risk has a big effect. So, can you see it yet in cancer? Well, you're beginning to see it, and you can use as an example what happened in Sweden with snus. So snus is a highly selective tobacco which was originally made by the Swedish Match, so it's predominantly in Sweden. And you have oral tobacco which is highly selected to be low in heavy metals and is also pasteurized. Now that has been in use in Sweden for 60 years. Now there you can see that it was originally adopted by males, men in Sweden, not the females, and you can see the way in which all the risk factors associated with tobacco were improved, far fewer lung cancers, if you want to look at lung cancers, in the males than in the females, because they went to an oral tobacco without combustion. So you've got a very clear example in a real world, in a whole nation.
Yeah, this is good. And as a conclusion, what are the main barriers to implementing harm reduction policies in low and middle income countries?
It's the main problem in introducing these strategies is the fact that people say, well, there is still harm in all the methods you're telling us. No one's saying they're harm-free. But my whole point is that there's really nothing that's harm-free. What you're saying, and you can clearly show, is that you're going to have at least a 95% and probably more reduction in the toxins and the carcinogens that are released by combustion compared to all the other methods of taking non-combustible nicotine, namely vaping, which as you know is a liquid which contains nicotine. You've got heated cigarettes which never combust, and you have the oral products which, as I've described before, including snus, where you already have a 60-year experience. All of these are likely to be less harmful and can certainly be shown to have a greater than 95% reduction in carcinogens. So whether that's to 2% or whether it's to 3%, you can argue about, but it's greater than 95%. And anything that's 95% or more safer is certainly something I would want.
Good. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Harper.